close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport Podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. On today's show we're looking back at the European Indoor Athletics Championships in Poland and reflecting on Phil Healy's star-making 400 metre final performance. We'll also catch up with two-time Irish boxing champion Christina Desmond, who's set to miss out on a chance to qualify for the Olympics without throwing even one punch in anger. Finally, we'll hear from John Hynes of Courcey Rovers about an upcoming community wellness webinar with Conor Cusack, which takes place on Wednesday evening. But Kieran, there's only one place to start this week, and that's with the Ballyneen Bullet, who gave a career-defining performance in Torunnia on Saturday, finishing fourth in the 400 metre final. And it's safe to say Phil had the entire country behind her in Poland.
I think it's fair to say a nation held its breath on Saturday night, Jack. Everyone tuned in to watch Phil Healy in her first final at a major championships, and what a performance she turned in. To run a personal best in a European final is an incredible performance, and she finished just outside the medals when she came in fourth place. But I think the big takeaway is that she looked so much at home on the big stage. She looked so comfortable with the elite athletes in the world, and like I said there, she more than held her own. So that's a huge confidence booster for Phil Healy to take away from the European indoors, that she was able to produce three top-class, world-class performances within 36 hours. She ran 52 seconds flat in her heat on Friday, which was 100 of a second outside her PB. She won her semi-final then that Friday night, and then to come out on the Saturday to finish fourth and to produce another PB, this time it was 51.94 seconds, is incredible running. She didn't bring home a medal, but like you'll hear from her quite soon, what she takes away from these championships in terms of her overall learnings is like a medal for her, because she's shown that she can live with the best athletes in Europe and the best athletes in the world, because that was a stacked field, that was a world-class field. So incredible weekend for Phil Healy. And I was saying to you off air, Jack, it really feels like a kind of coming-of-age moment for Phil Healy. It's like Ireland fell in love with her on Saturday night, because the outpouring of I suppose, appreciation for her and love and just at what she achieved was absolutely incredible to see that over the last couple of days. And she's been on numerous radio stations since. She's been in all the papers, and she deserves that coverage, and she deserves all these column inches and radio time, because she's probably the best Irish athlete at the moment, obviously in terms of women's sprinting, what she's achieved. She's the 100 metre, 200 metre national record holder. She's going to be going to the Olympics in the 200 metres, maybe as well in the 400 metres. So it's great times for Phil Healy.
And just watching back the race this morning, I watched it twice just before we recorded, and what struck me was just how calm she looked in the closing stages of the race. She never looked flustered even for a second, because you rightly pointed out, like, she looked totally at ease on that stage, like the highest stage really in European athletics, and she did not look out of her depth at all. She was just calmness personified, and really showed why she has become one of Ireland's most exciting athletes.
100%. To be coming down that home straight, that final straight, and to be in contention for a medal at a major race in the European Championships in one of the elite events there, one of the big events, to 400 metres, it just tells you how far Phil has come and what company she's now keeping, and how comfortable she is in that company. She was only 0.2 of a second off bronze medal, which is incredible. And like I said already, she ran a PB of 51.94, and but like Phil told us on the podcast, and I'm constantly telling her and joking with her, West Cork is taking over, Jack. We've been saying it in this podcast for enough times now. West Cork sport is taking over, and it's an incredible time for West Cork sport. And I'm going to ask you and the listeners to indulge me just for a second, because I really think we're living through a golden era for West Cork sport, and everyone from West Cork should be so proud of what our local sports people are achieving on the local, national and international stages, because I suppose the truth of it is this won't last forever. There'll come a point when our current sports stars will move on. So we really need to live in the moment and enjoy what our West Cork sports people are, how they're performing and how they're putting West Cork on the map. So just for a second, right, in athletics, we've Phil Healy, Joan Healy, Darren McElhinney. We've Nicola Tuttle, too, a young hammer thrower from Kilbrittain, who was the national senior champion. Big things of her. And Bandon Athletic Club are doing super things. In rugby, we've Gavin Coombs, Liam Coombs, Darren Sweetenham, Fineen Wycherley, Josh Wycherley, John Hodnett, Jack Crowley, James French, Inya Breen and Laura Sheehan. And there's more in the Munster Academy like Cian Hurley. Turn to Rowan for a second. We've Gary O'Donovan, Paul O'Donovan, Fintan McCarthy, Jake McCarthy, Lydia Heafy, Aoife Casey, Emily Hegarty, and Dominic Casey as the Rowan coach. Look at the GA for a second. Martina O'Brien, Melissa Duggan, Anya Terry O'Sullivan, Libby Coppinger, Niamh Cotter, the Kylies, Laura Mahoney, and more. Turn to Camogie, and this is from West Cork again. We've Orla Cronin, and congrats to her. She picked up her first All-Star last weekend, so it was a great Saturday night for the townland of Knockaneedy in Ballineen, because Phil and Orla were in the same school growing up and they only live a kilometre apart. So huge congrats to Orla Cronin as she picked up her first All-Star. And we also have Libby Coppinger doing great things with the Cork Camogie team as well. Kickboxing, Tony Stevenson, Lily Delacour, world champions. In soccer, Conor Horan, obviously putting West Cork soccer on the map. We've Denzel Fernandez with Shelburne. We've Ronan Hurley with Cork City. We're going to claim Jack Walsh from Inishannon too, who's also joined with Cork City. Men's football, you've Brian Hurley, Mark Collins, Rory Dean, Kevin O'Driscoll, Mark White, Sean White, Maurice Shanley. The list goes on and on and on. And what I'm trying to say here, Jack, is that West Cork sport is going through an incredible high at the moment, and we all need to, I suppose, just sit back for a second and just think, wow, absolutely incredible. We're all so proud of what they've achieved, and that's why it was so great to see what Phil Healy, what she achieved last Saturday night, because again, it just highlights West Cork. It shows the strength of West Cork and how special West Cork is for sport.
Great stuff, Kieran. Well, yeah, there's no arguing that West Cork is enjoying a real period of triumph, and it's probably no coincidence that it's kind of coincided with me joining the Southern Star around 3 years ago. But anyway, sorry, I couldn't resist that. But we're going to catch up with Phil now. You caught up with her, Kieran, last night. So how was she keeping? She must be buzzing after her performance.
That's exactly the word to use, Jack. She was buzzing. She was on a high. She'd 1 hour's sleep on Saturday night because she'd travelled back from Poland on Sunday. So she spent most of Sunday travelling back back home to Ireland, or back home to Waterford, where she's based at the moment. So yeah, an incredible high. She's taken so much from the weekend. But before we go on to the Phil, just to mention Joan Healy too. Joan was in action at the European Championships as well. She finished 8th in her heat of the 60 metres on Sunday morning, so she bowed out at that stage. But I was chatting to her for this week's Star, and she's already taken the positives for it, and she's more targets ahead. So it's great to see the two Healy sisters were flying the West Cork flag again on the European stage. But like you said, I caught up with Phil just to get her thoughts and reflections on an incredible weekend for her. We're delighted now to be joined on the podcast by Phil Healy, who's coming off the back of a sensational European Indoors Championships. First off, we're talking on Monday, so happy International Women's Day, Phil. And second off, congratulations on last weekend at the European Indoors, finishing 4th, PB in the final, incredible couple of days. How have the last couple of days been for you?
Oh, it's been crazy, I'm on an absolute high from the whole thing and absolutely buzzing, and to come away with 4th, yes, it's so close to a medal, but it might as well be a medal for me. I ran the quickest time I ever ran, running a PB in the final. It was a messy race. I ran the second lap basically in lane 2, the last 50 in lane 4. So I gave myself extra work, but obviously you have to do that in a championship race. So to come out with a PB in my 3rd race in 36 hours, I'm just absolutely buzzing. And I gave it everything, even coming through the media zone after, because you're whipped off straight off the track and you're shoved with a mass straight on on straight away. Like I was like, where is the nearest bin? Like I just need to get sick. But they had to give me a black bag to walk through the rest of the media zone in case I got sick again. So for me, that's my medal, because I know that I walked off the track, gave it everything, and there was nothing more that I could have done in that race.
We talked a couple of weeks ago and we talked about championship running, and you were saying like you don't go out chasing times, but if you look at your 3 performances over those 2 days, you did 52 seconds flat in the heat and then to come out with a PB of 51.94 in the final itself. Like, that's sensational running.
100%. And like championship racing is different. Like you can go in and you can be ranked so high. Like I was ranked 5th going in. There's other major championships where I've gone ranked 5th and I haven't come out nowhere near it and I've messed up. So championship racing is different, and times does go out the window, but you need it in terms of seeding. So to have that time going in, it gave me a good lane draw with lane 5 or 6, and I got lane 5 in the heat. And like I knew I have to be ahead of the Swiss athlete in the heat, because she's about 6 foot tall, and I knew she was going to like come storming in on the side. And then going down the back straight, like all that was going through my head is control, because that's what Shane said. Like there's no need to kick, just control from the front. And if you need to kick when you need to do it. So like to run 52 flat, I knew there was an awful lot more to give for the next race. But like it's a mad rush that day on that Friday, because I was up at 8:15 and I was racing again at 8:15 that night. So it's a long, long day. And like you get back to the hotel after the heat and you have to bring yourself down to bring yourself back up again. And then just to qualify through to to qualify in the semi, then again getting the win again, like it was just unbelievable. But then in comparison to the final, all the pressure is taken away almost, because you don't have to qualify and to get through. So it's just like when I was at, say, the World Indoor Tour a few years ago, or when I went to Milrose Games, it's just like a high profile race, and everything before it has just gone out the window, and it's just about executing and racing. And I knew it was going to be a clash at the bell, but I put myself in contention and I gave it everything.
Take me back to Friday night. So after you won the semi-final, so you 2 races on Friday, you won your heat and you won the semi-final. And by winning the semi-final, you booked your place in your first final at a major championships, which that's like almost psychologically too, that's breaking a barrier to get through to that medal race. So when you got back to the hotel on Friday night, what were you feeling like? Could you go to sleep that night? Were you what was it like?
Yeah, and it's pure excitement, and it's on a caffeine absolute high, because like I had taken caffeine for the heat, I had taken caffeine for the semi, so like my body was just in like a whole other level, just buzzing. So like I went to sleep at about, I think it was 2 o'clock that night or something like that, and then at least I had the next morning to sleep in. I was meant to get up for a COVID test, so I made sure that I had my COVID test done on the night after of the semi, so that I could sleep in, and then it was just about resting for the day and going again. But I was on an absolute high. And then after the final, I got 1 hour sleep. I went to sleep at 5:15. We had to leave the hotel at 6:15, at 6:30. So I was up at 6:15. So yeah, it was just crazy.
Have you had time to look back at that final, like kind of and analyze the different parts of the final? Because when you look at the 6 athletes there, it was stacked. Like it was a world-class field, some of the best runners in the world there. So when you look back at it now, what are your thoughts?
Like it's insane. And even the girl, Lika Klaver, she was 5th. So we always knew that she was going to go out really hard, because that's what she does all the time. She's ranked number 2 in Europe with a 51.2, and she's ranked 51s all season long. So to be ahead of her, even alone, is a massive achievement. But it's just great to see that like everything was so close, and I am now like in that territory with all of them. And like I messed up Glasgow 2 years ago in 2019. So like I didn't want to be just like a serial semi-finalist all the time and just make it to the semis and then bowing out or not executing it properly. And like there was many girls at Europeans this year who went in with highly ranked, and didn't make it through to the semis because they didn't execute properly. So every race is going to be different. You can like, I was on the phone to Shane after every race, because obviously this was a different championships as well. Like, and he was back at home, and I'd say it's about his 4th race in 7 years that he's ever missed. And of course it had to be the biggest one where we got to the final and he's at home. But anyway, yeah, it's just different. Like, so like you can play the race over 1,000,001 times, but when you're in it, you just have to react on your feet, because it can go anyway. But looking back on it, like it's just to be with all those girls, and the top 2 have medalled at World Championships before. Jodie, who was third, has many world and European medals outdoors as well. So just to be in contention with all of them and to run a PB in a world class field, and like it's the quickest European final in years or like in a long time, and that 51.9 would have medalled at the last 5 European indoors, which spans a 10-year process because they're held every 10 years. So knowing that and knowing the stats from that, like it's just insane. But it'll be a massive boost, like to take it away from here. Like I was buzzing, people were coming up to me and they were afraid to see if I was like disappointed or not, and I was like, I couldn't be happier, like, you know. So like for me it was, I might as well have a medal. And like I saw an article there Gillick had earlier, and it was like, I didn't lose third, I won fourth, and that is a medal for me. And like Carl Denny had an article before the race saying that I needed to have the race of my life, and I was like, you know what, enough people have doubted me along the way, and I produced the race of my life, so I gave it everything, and I have to walk off the track happy.
I think, and you touched it there, Phil, you showed last weekend that you belong at that level. Like you mixed it with the very best in the sport, and you more than held your own, and you were right in that hunt for medals right at the very end. So how much confidence can you take off that going forward?
It's massive. And like say even previous championships, I would say have had the speed, but I may necessarily not have had the last 50, and I'm like come to 350, and then it's just like I'm swimming to the line and just fighting for my position. And like say in Glasgow, I necessarily didn't have the speed, but I was stronger coming home. But now having the two together and knowing that I could kick off the last bend, and like that's where people didn't rate me either. They're always like expecting me to just have it to 350. So it is a massive boost. Like, and like I can't get better than this. It's a European final. It's a fourth. It's a stacked field. It's the quickest performance that I've ever done. It's highly ranked in the top times in Ireland ever. So like yeah, it's just massive. And as well, looking towards Tokyo, it'll bring me massive ranking points and bonus points in on top of it. So it'll slot me nicely into the system.
That brings us nicely on to talk about the Olympics. As you've spoken about before, you're in a very, very good place to qualify in the 200 metres for Tokyo this summer. With the 400 metres now, what's the plan with that? Are you thinking of doubling up the 200 and the 4? Would you specialise in one over the other, or have you given it much thought so far?
Yeah, so the 200 will obviously be the main aim, and that's where I'm ranked highly at the moment, 29th out of 56 or something. But even looking at the 400 at the weekend, we all get our splits because we're wearing transponders inside our numbers, and like we split at 23.8, and you're not going all out. So like I was on the phone to Shane after, and I was like, when is my next 200? Like I need to run a 200 because like the signs are great, because that was my third race, and to do 23.8 going through and splitting it and coming home. So you need 5 times to run to get onto the ranking system for the 400 as well. The 51.99 from the micro meet a few weeks ago will have me really highly ranked. This will be massive points from the final. There was no bonus points from the semi, but you can only hold 2 points 2 times from indoors anyway. So all we need is 3 races outdoors, and hopefully that we can go there in 2 events. They don't overlap. The 200 is first, the 400 is the day after. So we'll see how it goes, and fingers crossed. But when we're in the position that we can potentially qualify, why not give it a go? Because that's the type of training that works for me anyway. So I will mix it with it too. And like things are looking really good in terms of 4x4 as well. Like we had 3 girls qualified in the 400 for this European Indoor Championships, which has never happened. We have 2 girls in the States, 2 Irish girls in the States at the moment who are running super quick times as well. So put all the girls together, and there's definitely massive potential to qualify for a 4x4 and a mixed 4x4 as well.
These are very exciting times for you, Phil, and for Irish athletics. And you touched, when you named him there, Shane McCormack. He's almost an honorary West Corkman at this stage. He came down a couple of years ago for the Celtic Ross West Cork Sports Star Awards, and I think he fell in love with West Cork, and I think West Cork fell in love with Shane too. So just a couple of words about him. Like, kind of since you've joined forces all those years ago, you've gone from strength to strength to strength. And you mentioned there that he wasn't in Poland last weekend because of obviously everything that's going on. So I suppose a couple of words about him, his influence over these last couple of years, and even his influence last weekend.
100%, like, and Shane is like, I wouldn't be there without Shane. So like, I can do all the training, but if Shane's work wasn't there, then the performance isn't going to come out. And like I've been working with Shane since the end of 2013. So to come out and like he's seen all the good days and the bad days, and like we've had many bad days, but we've many good days as well. So like this is the absolute highlight of everything. And like it was hard when he wasn't there to share the moment with him. And I saw him on Zoom last night because when I rocked in, the housemates told me they weren't coming back till Tuesday. But anyway, they were back in the house, lights turned off, waiting for me to come in, and the training group were there. But like when I will see Shane, like to share this moment with him as well, like, and all the work that he's put in, like so many people in other sports ask like, is this Shane's job? And it's not Shane's job. Like Shane is a director in an IT company as well, so he has massive pressure in terms of work. He's balancing his family life, and then he does like professional coaching on the side as well. So like what he does is absolutely crazy. And like in other countries, he would be a paid full-time coach, but he's not. It's a volunteer position. It's a hobby as such for him, and he gives it everything. And like he will never leave any stone unturned, no matter what. And he will fight till the end, and he will find all the information that he needs to get. So no, everything is down to Shane, and he leads the whole thing, and with the training group and the environment that he creates and the people that he brings in terms of physios and physiologists and all that different things, like he leads it, and he will make everything happen. And it's a testament to him. Like he has created the result. I do the easy part of the running. He has the programming. He's trying to balance, are we doing a 200? Are we doing a 400? Where will we put this in? Where will we put that in? So he has the hard job, and I do the easy bit of running, and the planning is down to him. And he certainly aced that one anyway.
Incredible work for Shane. And a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, Phil, we were saying that West Cork is taking over, right? But I'm going to hold in a bit closer. Knocknaneedy is taking over, because last Saturday night, while Phil Healy raced her best ever performance of 4th in the European Indoors, Orla Cronin, your neighbour from about a kilometre over the road, won her first Camogie All-Star. And your primary school put up this picture, and I know you've seen it by now, this brilliant picture of yourself and Orla in your national school days. So what a night for Knocknaneedy, Ballyneenan in the Skeen.
Oh, it was crazy. And like seeing that picture after, and that picture has been everywhere since it's been on the Irish Examiner and things like that. And I was messaging Orla after, like, it's absolutely super. And like West Cork will always take over. West Cork was trending on Twitter today in Ireland. But people just need to realise like the talent that is in West Cork, and like Orla producing an all-star performance in the year that it was in, like, is just a credit to her and all the work that she's done. And like across all the different sports, what West Cork has. And then like that picture was gas, and like the throwback to it. And I was the year ahead of Orla in primary school, and she literally lives down the road. So it was crazy. And I played camogie with Orla the whole ways up. But yeah, it's absolutely mental. And to have it in such a small village, such a small area, it's crazy. But like it shows even more so the talent that's in West Cork across all sports at a top level.
I touched base with Orla yesterday when I saw the photo, just to get a bit of background, and she thinks it's from a Cork primary school sports day where he won a relay event. So Phil, you said you played camogie there, so would you make a better camogie player, or would Orla make a better sprinter if you had to swap sports?
I'd say Orla make a better sprinter now, since we come back into camogie. No, yeah, I gave it up when I was about 16, 17, and focused fully on the athletics. But no, I'll stick to the sprinting side now, and I will leave the camogie to Orla.
Oh no, it was an absolutely brilliant weekend for Orla, especially for you as well, and for West Cork sport in general. We're all so proud of you again, Phil. You're putting West Cork on the map, so congratulations, and it's onwards and upwards for the next couple of weeks and months.
Super, Kieran. Thanks a million.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Two-time Irish boxing champion Christina Desmond has had her Olympic dreams dashed by the ongoing COVID-19 restrictions. Desmond had been gearing up for a last chance qualifying tournament in Paris in June, but the pandemic has had other ideas and the competition has been scrapped. A new points-based qualification system has replaced the cancelled tournament, and though some Irish boxers have benefited, Christina is not one of them. I caught up with the Kilnamatcher welterweight last night, and I started by asking her where she was when she got the bad news. We might as well jump straight in, Christina, with the disappointing news you received recently, and that is that your Olympic dream is over, for now at least, and through no fault of your own. So just kind of give me an idea of where were you maybe when you got word that you weren't going to get a chance to qualify for the Tokyo Games?
Yeah, funny story. So I was working all weekend, and I actually was deemed a close contact on Friday night at work of the COVID-19. So I actually had to go home to Cork and I had to isolate in another house away from my family. So I was on my own, for precaution measures. I didn't meet any of them. I just went straight into another house, and I was on my own for the whole weekend. And so Monday morning, I got a text. I was trying to ring Bernard Dunn, the high performance director, to inform him on the Monday morning because I didn't want to be ringing him on the weekend. I was alive and well, so I was fine. But I was due to be in training that week in Dublin, so I was trying to ring him to tell him that I couldn't make it up to Dublin to train. And he said, "I'll ring you in a minute. I'm in meetings." So he was finding out that morning. I didn't know this, but so he said, "I'll talk to you after the meeting at 1:00." And the Zoom meeting, we're having a team meeting. So this was an unplanned Zoom meeting. So we were just all went on to Zoom, and he told us then that the European qualifier will go ahead as it stands, and the World qualifier is cancelled. So it was a big blow. No one expected it. There was no talks of it. There was nothing in the media. It wasn't leaked or anything. No boxers knew nothing until they were told, literally, "You're not going," and that's it. And whoever is at the European qualifiers only have one chance or whatever, and then hope for the best that you're ranked high enough. So it was a big massive blow. I was on my own isolation, so it was even worse to try to take on my own. And but look, this is how it goes. I'm happier I found out now than what it would, if I carried on till June or whatever,
But it really was out of the blue, like you say, because there had been no murmurings from anywhere. And then the first I had heard that there may have been some boxers qualified and some were going to miss out was Joe O'Neill and IrishBoxing.com was trying to tot up all the points. He seemed to be the only person outside of, I guess, the high performance unit that would have known anything. And the way you describe it there as well, that you happen to have been by yourself isolating, so that must have been tough news to take. I know you said it was better than if you had found out at a later date, but I suppose what went through your mind when you first heard the news? Did you feel like you'd I wouldn't say wasted all the time that you had spent training in the lead up to the Paris qualifier, but what kind of feelings were going through your mind?
So I had been trying to train and work at the same time, so it was a long period of time where I was trying to juggle one from the other. So like I wasn't training as hard as what I should have been, because I actually was in work a lot more because of the lockdown. We couldn't get leave. We were under pressure. We didn't have enough numbers. I was trying to be in and be out, and I was focusing on that from March onwards. I was going to focus my whole time for boxing and go for the qualifier in June. So I was disappointed. I'd been training all over Christmas and everything. There was supposed to be national championships in January, so I was training all along anyway. And then once I found out that, I went for a run straight away, and I was trying to process it, and I was like, what the hell? That it's not just the last year that I've been training, it's been my whole life, really. It's I missed the Olympics back in 2016, but they weren't my goal anyway, because I was only 18 at the time. I only missed them by one fight. So looking back, I was like, sure, look, I was only young, But 2020 will be my one. Obviously, 2020 didn't work out, but 2021, it still gave me another year of training. And as we all wished, I'd say, just have it finished with last summer, not finished with, but have it done with last summer, and we could relax for a bit of this year and go on. But that didn't happen. So look, it's been a long few years of training and a long few years of ups and downs and struggles, and then to find out that you don't even get a chance or an opportunity, and that they're doing it. I think they're doing it unfairly. I don't think the Olympics is going to be the same Olympics that it is going to be. Fair play to whoever gets it, but it will not be a proper Olympics if I feel that way.
Let's just kind of dwell on that point for a second then, because I suppose maybe 3 years ago, we'll say, you probably would have been seen as maybe not an outside bet, but you wouldn't have been the favoured boxer in Ireland to have gone on to the run that you've had on. But you've actually you had put yourself in pole position for Olympic qualification by obviously winning the 2 Irish titles back to back, and then performing gallantly at both the Worlds and the Europeans. You finished in the top 8 at both of those. So you looked like you were on course to qualify, and then to miss out through no fault of your own. You're not even going to get to throw a punch in anger for a place at the Olympics. So it's kind of, it's like what people within boxing might say, well, that's just boxing for you. It's never as smooth or seamless as it should be. No, it's so like I was 75 kilo all up along, because obviously I went to the Youth Olympics back 2014, and that was my weight, and I knew I can compete. No, I can compete with them girls, but I can't, they're too strong for me. I'm too small at 75 kilos. So myself and my trainer Tom Power at home in Cork made the decision, we're going to go 69. I'm not boxing 75 anymore, cut the weight, made it easy. There was no issues. I knew I had the beatings of the girls in the country. I knew I had the beatings of the girls all around the world. So fair enough, I only had 1 year run at the Europeans and the Worlds at that weight, but I still finished top 8, losing on tight, narrow decisions, to the girls that went on and won it in both the competitions. I lost both times on split decisions, I think, to, the Russian and the Europeans, and in the Worlds I lost to the Turkish girl, who is now the world number 1, so I've lost on narrow decisions to both of them. I know on any given day I can beat any of the 2 girls, they're all full-time athletes, and I made the decision to go on and get my career in Garda Síochána as well as train. Would it be different if I decided to put my time fully in the boxing and not in Garda Síochána as well? Maybe so. I might be qualified by now. I might have had reached my spot, or I might still be in the European Championships that are still going to go on. But then, it's just, there's so many things. Oh, what if, and what if this, and what if that? But to be honest, I would have believed fully that I would have qualified at the World Qualifiers in June, but that's just how it goes. Well, let's park the disappointment then for a second and maybe just look to the future, because you're obviously still young, you're still active, so I presume you don't have any intention of turning professional. So do you think you're going to switch your focus now and start to target the Paris Olympics, or is that too far away to even think about at this stage?
No, well, when it came first, I don't know yet what I'm going to do. There has been I have been approached, I have been asked, would I go pro? What if you did this? What if you did that? Look, it's a decision that I make is, with my family and all that. They've been with me all along, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I do think I'm going to go for Europeans and Worlds in the amateur game still. I still think I have to prove myself at that. I feel there's medals in me and that there's top finishing places in me. I'm still only 24. I'm young. I'm only a baby, really. So I have a lot of years in me. There's a lot to weigh up. The pro game, then I don't really like the business side of it. I just want to get in and box. So I don't like the shit talk or the. But
on the pro game and the shit talk, I see one of your old rivals from the amateur game announced on social media today that she's turning professional, Sandy Ryan, and she's well known to be able to talk and hype fights through social media. So if you were to turn pro, there's a ready-made rivalry there for you.
Yeah, I suppose so. Sandy Ryan is well known all over the 69 kilo weight. When I was drawn against her in the Worlds, was it?
Yeah.
It was massive because she was the queen at the weight from GB, and Sandy Ryan this and Sandy Ryan that, and it didn't really faze me. The name, she had such a following on Instagram and for such a following on all social media platforms, and it I was like, this is my chance now. This, whatever happens. I'm at 69 kilo now. It'll be a good test. And beating her, she didn't like that. So I was delighted with that win. That made me, think, these girls are at 69 years. They should be over me. Not that they should be over me, but they're well used to the ropes of 69 kilos. So I don't have rivalries with anyone, to be honest with you. I don't have rivalries even with my number 2 and number 3 counterparts in Ireland. I get along good with most people, to be honest with you. But
well, you can blame me for stoking the fire, and I'm going to stoke it even further now by saying maybe Sandy Ryan was scared into the professional game, having had to come face to face with you at the Worlds.
I don't know about that now. There's a lot better girls out there as well, but yeah, look, everyone hits a rough part in their career. I don't think Sandy Wren was going through a good patch in her career. That's nothing said. I do believe I beat her, and I beat her well, you know, on in the fight. But yeah, look, I do wish her best of luck in the pro game. But if it happens that I turn pro, I'd have no issue fighting her now.
Great stuff.
I'm always nice and sweet, but once it gets into the ring, I'm not like that. I'm all nice and modest, but when it gets into the ring, I'm not like that. So, but that don't happen till a few days before the fight. So I have good people behind me to make that happen.
Good stuff. Well, watch this space. Well, Christina, if you don't mind, I just want to park the boxing chat for a second. I want to ask you a bit about yourself outside the ring, because the last time we spoke, you had just recently qualified as a member of An Garda Síochána, as you've alluded to there, and then just a few months later, we were plunged into a global pandemic. So that must have been some baptism of fire for a rookie on the force.
Yeah, it's been actually 2 years today I passed out. So it's been a whirlwind, to be honest with you. So I passed out on 8th March 2019, and I got stationed in Dungarvan, obviously. Love it here, absolutely love it. Love the job. The station's unreal. They've been very good to me. My superintendent, Michael Lacey, has been top class. He's given me whatever I wanted. I went to the Worlds, went to the Europeans, got that opportunity to travel abroad for them, and got all the time I wanted for training. Finished top 8, as I said. So then I went on. I learned so much in the job. I've learned, met so many good people, and then next thing last year, 1 year in, and the global pandemic hit. So it was it was crazy. Work changed, everything changed, how we did things changed, and over the year it's just been revolving, and there's new rules coming in every week, and you always have to be on guard, and people are getting fed up with the pandemic, and we're fed up with it as well, to be honest with you. But sure, look, this is the job we're in, and we just have to go with it. So yeah, it has been tough. I've been only at home a few times since the pandemic hit. I got home for 1 or 2 days over Christmas, so it has been tough. But I'm liking it. I'm liking being on the front line. I'm liking working. I'm glad I can get up and go to work every day, and I'm glad I can try and make a change somehow in the job that I'm in. So.
And you mentioned the job changed totally as a result of the pandemic. Obviously most people's jobs changed to some degree, but years, and most people on the front line specifically. So how would you say personally you adjusted to the changes, because you were, as you said, almost doing a totally different job to what you had trained for in Templemore, and you were only in the job for a year before it hit?
Yeah, so I suppose I was well used to what I was supposed to be doing in the station at that stage. I was a year in when it did hit. I was actually abroad at the European Championships the European qualifiers when everything came in, and I had to come home, and the morning I landed at home that the rule came in that I had to isolate for 2 weeks. So I was out again for another 2 weeks at the start of it. So I came into it when the units or the teams or the station was already 2 weeks into the pandemic. So it was just like, this has changed, you're doing this now, you're doing that now. We have to be cautious where we go, we have to be cautious who we talk to, how we talk to them, that kind of way. And everyone else was up in the air, we were up in the air. So yeah, it's been a year that's been just up and down. We've been close contacts a few times. We've had bad scares of, you could be a close contact and all that, and it's tough in the mental health, and then to come home and not have a routine in my training or not have a routine in my boxing, that went totally out the window. I was just working full time. I was trying to train in between it. It was tough now. So then, it came to points then where you'd be going to training camps and you'd have to do 2 weeks quarantine after. So trying to get time off for that length of time, you could be trying, 4 weeks I was off in October trying to train, and then I had to isolate when I came home. So it's just it's hard to do it now because the rules that are there. But no, I do like it, and sometimes I just wonder why I decided to go for the job. But everyone has that in their jobs, I suppose. I do like it, and I'm glad I can make a positive impact on some people. Absolutely,
and it never fails to impress me the fact that you managed to balance a career as a member of An Garda Síochána and a full-time elite athlete, so very impressive. I can barely organise 2 runs during the week, and I'm not on the front line. But another thing you said to me in the past that I just want to touch on before we wrap up, and that was that outside of actually participating in boxing, you don't really follow the sport. So away from work and away from training, what do you do to unwind? Are you a Netflix person? Do you go hiking? You mentioned you're based in Dungarvan. Do you enjoy cycling? What does Christina Desmond do when she has some downtime to herself?
More or less nothing really. No, I like cycling. I have a racer. I obviously the Greenway's here in Dungarvan, so we take off on the racer. There's a lot of young members of Garda Síochána here in Dungarvan as well, so we do have good crack when we are off together. If we do get time off together, that's the thing. We're all in different units, I suppose. They've that done on purpose. But I'm only messing. But so I do like cycling. I enjoy walking. The beach is only 2 kilometres from my house, so I'm spoiled rotten in that kind of way. You know, people are dying to have places to go. I have loads of places to go here in Dungarvan and loads of places to see, or coffee shops and all this. There's too many of them here. So I just like to chillax. I don't really do much. I've loads of friends as well here in Dungarvan. If I do get home, I just chill out at home with the family and all. So yeah, I don't have too many things that I like. That I'm easily pleased really. Once I'm not under pressure from the job or under pressure from the boxing.
Okay, so
it's been busy though. It has been busy. Yeah.
Last question then, Christina. What does the rest of 2021 have in store for you in terms of boxing specifically? What are the goals for the next 18 months, I guess?
Yeah, that's wide open. I've no idea, to be honest with you. I've got an email for times to go back onto the Irish team now, you know, to go back up to the high performance unit. But I just have to work it out with work. You know, it's hard to get time off at the moment, and I have no idea really what's in store. I haven't really done much training since I found out that the qualifiers weren't on, to be honest. I kind of just was like, oh, I'm just going to relax now. I've been for cycles. I've done anything. I've been doing activities, but I haven't been doing anything training wise, boxing wise. You know, I've hit the bag maybe a few times, but I've not been sparring or anything. But look, I suppose with the amount of years that I have been doing it, a few weeks off. I only found out 2 weeks ago, or was it 3 weeks today or something. So, yeah, it's just been nice to have downtime, and I got home in that period of time, so it was nice. Yeah, but God only knows what the future holds. You know, they'll have to run out the Olympics now, I suppose, and I doubt there'll be much happening for the rest of 2020 in the boxing side of it. So, to be honest with you, I'm going to put the head down, train myself. I'm looking forward to a year of just training myself and doing what I can do, and I'm sitting a bit over my fighting that weight. I'm going to try and get down and sit on the weight. Normally boxers don't sit on the weight, but I feel much better at that weight, so that's what I'm going to do. That's my goal, and I'm going to try and please myself and enjoy it for a while, because I'm sure the start of 2022, facing into another year, there'll be Europeans and Worlds. All going well, COVID will be after disappearing, or we'll be living with it somehow. So I'll be ready for that when it does return, or when I can go to Europeans and Worlds. And I'm sure Garda Síochána will be able to help me with that once all of this relaxes.
Brilliant stuff, Christina. Well, if anybody in Irish sport deserves a little break, it's definitely you. So as always, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Thanks for taking the time, and I look forward to continuing to follow your journey into the future.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Now, just a quick correction. In my intro, I said that Courcey Rovers are hosting a community wellness webinar on Wednesday night. It's actually on Thursday night, so apologies for that. It's Thursday night. And Kieran, you spoke to John Hynes, who's part of the organisation of this event.
Yeah, the coverage or the pre-promotion of this event has been very visual on social media the last couple of days. The organisers have called in a lot of, I suppose, big name Cork sports people to help promote this event. We have the likes of Conor Hourihan, David Hart, Orla Fane, and so on. They've all kind of added their voice to this. It's a community wellness event, like you said, Jack. It's on this Thursday, March 11th, online at 7:30 p.m. It's a collaborative event hosted by Courcey Rovers, Kinsale Community School and Kinsale Youth Support Services. And it's been billed as a night of truthful discussion on our emotional growth. And Conor Cusack, who's a very well-known mental health advocate, will be one of the key speakers on the night. And they also have a kind of a panel discussion with Cork Camogie captain Linda Collins and a couple of more. So this is well worth checking out. Like I said, Thursday, March 11th at 7:30 p.m. online. Check out courceyrovers.com to find the link over the next couple of days, and also keep an eye on social media on Twitter and Facebook, and that's where the link will be publicised ahead of Thursday night. So definitely worth checking out. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. Mental health is very topical at the moment as well, so I'm looking forward to tuning into this. So again, Thursday night, March 11th at 7:30 p.m, and you'll find the link on social media. We're joined now on the podcast by John Hynes to talk about a very interesting and important webinar that is coming up this Thursday night, March 11th at 7:30 p.m, and it's an online webinar, like I was saying. This is a collaborative event hosted by Courcey Rovers GA Club, Kinsale Community School and Kinsale Youth Support Services. In the press release, John, it's titled a community wellness event with the journey comes emotional health. Can you explain to me what this webinar is about?
Well, thanks, Kieran, and hello to you and to all your listeners, and thanks for inviting us onto the podcast this week. Yes, look, I think everybody's well aware that the last year has been one of the greatest challenges this country has ever faced, and everybody knows someone that has been adversely affected by it. So I suppose every parish or every community has its GA club, and that has been a large focal point for many, many years from a social, recreational and health perspective, both mental and physical. And our local club here began a conversation around what could we do to support not just our players, our coaches, our volunteers and our committee members, but perhaps the wider community. And having looked around at work that has been done in this space, we got in contact with Conor Cusack, who I'm sure many of your listeners are well aware of, and his very unique and indeed insightful story. So Conor has got thankfully come on board with our webinar next Thursday night at 7:30. And I suppose we're very keen to promote that it isn't just about Conor. His is a very I suppose educational story for us all to learn from. So we'll have two of our club members who sort of work in this field, having a discussion with him rather than an interview, and it'll be very laid back, but I think your listeners will find it very interesting. But also, as part of the webinar, we'll be having a Q&A panel, and we've got 5 or 6 really, really diverse characters there. There's young players. We have Linda Collins, the captain of the Cork Camogie team this year, Ger Rice from Kinsale Youth Support Services, and other kind of people that can give their perspective on what Conor's discussion has started. And really, the ultimate aim of this webinar is to signpost everybody, whether you are a person that's expressing or experiencing difficulties at this time, or maybe you're supporting someone in your family or community that needs that help. So we'll be giving signposts to various different services and help that is available out there. So there you go.
Like you mentioned there, John, Conor Cusack, he's a great mental health advocate, and he's done superb work over the last couple of years in this field. And you're right, the last 12 months or so, they've been very tough on people. It's been a very challenging 12 months for people of all ages. So this just helps, I suppose, helps the conversation, helps people to talk. And like you said, you might help signposts kind of certain elements that people can look out for. So it's really keeping the conversation about mental health going.
Yes, we've been very fortunate, Kieran. We have a hashtag. Hopefully your readers will have already seen this on their social medias over the recent past. So our hashtag is Talk to Someone. And that's one of the key takeaways from this webinar. And I suppose we're quite keen to promote the fact as well that we're exploring topics like the wisdom of kindness, And that's very relevant to GAA clubs and communities at the moment. If we look at how the clubs stepped up to the plate last year in terms of delivering prescriptions or groceries, and that kind of awakened that powerful sleeping giant of volunteerism that is innate in Irish people. I think we're increasingly aware of the support through talk, whether that's talking to a trusted friend, a club mate, perhaps a coach, but also perhaps a trained professional if needs be. We want to promote the idea of hope. We're on that final hurdle of COVID-19, one would hope at this point, with vaccinations now happening, and giving people guidance on how to not just deal with mental health, but actually, if I am well, how do I stay well? So the protective and preventative measures, and really just to allow people in an increasingly diverse society to feel comfortable with their own individuality and to be their real self.
It's an absolutely brilliant initiative, and congratulations and well done to everyone who's involved. And like you said, John, the social media hashtag is #TalkToSomeone. And over the last couple of days, we've seen the likes of Cork footballer Orla Flynn, Tomás O'Shea, international soccer star Conor Horan from Bandon GA Club. They've all come on board on social media to promote this event, to let people know that it's this Thursday night, March 11th at 7:30 p.m. And listeners are probably asking now, John, how can they join the event on Thursday?
Yeah, a good point to bring us to a finish there, Kieran. So it's very simple. On the day of the event, we will have the webinar link posted on all of the Courcey's social medias on Twitter and Facebook, but equally so our partners right throughout the Cork GAA community and other stakeholders will be promoting that link. But very simply, you can go to courceyrovers.com, home of the senior Camogie County champions, I might add. And we have a special page there where you can find the link for it.
Fantastic, John. Thanks for joining us and best of luck on Thursday night.
Thank you, Kieran.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast, and we're just going to preview this week's sports section before we wrap things up. And Kieran, I had a sneak preview of this week's front page yesterday, and it's a good one, I have to say. So maybe tell the listeners what they can expect to see on the front page when they pick up their copy of the Southern Star this Thursday.
We touched it earlier, Jack, that it was a superb Saturday. I'm going to christen it Super Saturday for Knockneedy in Ballineen, where Phil Healy had her best ever finish in a major championship. So G finished 4th, and then Orla Cronin won her first ever Camogie All-Star. So their former primary school released a superb photo of Orla and Phil in their national school days. So let's just say that we're using that photo on the front page of this Thursday Southern Star. So it's well worth checking out. I think it's a collector's item, to be quite honest. I think it's quite a brilliant front page. So expect a lot of Phil Healy and Orla Cronin in this Thursday Southern Star as we celebrate their achievements. We also have a tribute to Ned Cleary, the Castlehaven GA legend who passed away last weekend. Ned Cleary is, I suppose, he's commonly known, well, he's applauded for how he transformed the fortunes of Castlehaven GA Club when he arrived in the parish many, many years ago. So we have a very fitting tribute from Tom Lyons for the late Ned Cleary. We have a lovely interview too with Shirley Maloney of Courcey Rovers GA Club. She's been one of the driving forces behind Courcey Rovers Camogie over the last couple of years. Also, Jack, we have 2 pages of rugby this week, because that's going to lead into next week, where we have a 16-page special on the growth of West Cork rugby. And I'm just going to say that again. In next week's Southern Star, we have a 16-page special on the growth of West Cork rugby that is worth it. It's an absolutely brilliant special, and we'll talk about that more next week. But in this week's Star, I have an interview with Andrea Stock. She's a former Bantry Bay rugby player who's now playing with Wasps ladies over in London. So great story there. We also have an interview with Jack Walsh, the Valley Rovers player who's now turned striker with Cork City FC. We have an interview with Christina Desmond, like we heard Jack talking earlier. Holly O'Sullivan, well known in Carby Rangers and Cork football circles, for his role with Carby Rangers as a player and a manager. But we're talking to him this week about his road bowling. So from that alone, Jack, there's a load in this week's Southern Star. So well worth checking out this Thursday in shops and online.
Yeah, as Kieran mentioned, if you can't make it to the shops, you can by the Southern Star online. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper and you can read the Southern Star on your computer, tablet or smartphone for less than €2 per week. Thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week with a West Cork rugby special. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Slán Tamil.